This is Gareth Southgate, and this is the Three Lions podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Three Lions podcast. My name is Russell Osborne and this is an independent England football supporters podcast. Hope you've enjoyed the recent episodes that have come your way. Plenty of them there. The Terry Venables one, there was a couple where I took a look at England's summer of youth, and also the ones focusing in on the Lionesses. One about Sarina Weigmann's World Cup squad. They are all available on your podcast provider of choice or threelionspodcast.com. And just mentioning the Lionesses there, it's just been recently announced that they will play a home friendly at Milton Keynes Stadium before they head off down under. Portugal are the opponents. I'm sure tickets going to be in high demand for that one. They are, of course, available via the FA. Now, before I crack on with this episode, just a quick one to say congratulations to Manchester City, Premier League, FA Cup, Champions League. They done the treble, didn't they? We're not going to hear the end of that for a little while. Also to West Ham. Strange season for them, wasn't it? Atrocious in the league, but victory in Europe. Jared Bowen too. This time last year, he was earning his 4 caps in that ill-fated Nations League campaign. I also want to give a special mention to England's cerebral palsy team. IFCPF runners-up in the European Championships. Well done to the guys for getting so far. Also, I hope your season has been a successful one. If not, well, there's always next year. And of course, there's always England. Okay then, on to this episode. Plenty to squeeze in. Our senior men haven't been in action since March when we took that trip to Napoli and then entertained Ukraine at Wembley. We took a maximum 6 points as we opened Group C in our qualification for next year's European Championships in Germany. It was a 2-1 win over Italy, one which saw Harry Kane become England's all-time record goal scorer, and then a routine 2-0 win over Ukraine. Goals from Kane and Saka. And we'll be hoping to do the same again as we face Malta away Friday the 16th of June and then North Macedonia at Old Trafford on the following Monday the 19th. So, on this episode we'll be looking at Gareth's latest squad, which was announced on Wednesday the 24th of May, which seems quite a little while ago now, doesn't it? And well in advance of these international fixtures. I guess he came to the conclusion that it was the end of the season, a little more time on his hands, I reckon. And as per usual, I'll be speaking with some people who know our opponents better than I do. And as England are playing away from Wembley, I've got a guide to our host city of Manchester. Currently, Group C looks like this. We are top with 6 points. Italy second with 3. Now, as it is a 5-team group, North Macedonia, they have only played 1 game, but they are third. Ukraine also only played 1 game, but as we know, they lost that to us. They're fourth, and Malta are currently bottom, having played 2 games, but lost them both to North Macedonia and Italy. Now, this international window won't see Italy playing a game in this qualification group, as they are in Nations League finals action, along with Spain, Croatia and the Netherlands. Which, incidentally, if they happen to win that and don't happen to qualify from our group, then I believe they'll automatically qualify for the Euros, or certainly go forward to the playoffs. But with this in mind, we stand a great chance of bagging another 6 points and ultimately being 9 points ahead of them come their next qualifier in September. It's potentially a fantastic position to be in. So, that squad, as I said, announced on Wednesday the 24th of May, a squad of 25, almost 3 weeks in advance of our game against Malta. It's almost old news now, isn't it? Oh, you may have even forgotten some of the players. I'm thinking the only other time he's selected so early is when tournament squads have been announced. And even that maybe not so early. Now, with the Champions League final being played 5 days before it, Gareth, he's already mentioned the likelihood of any Manchester City players picked would probably miss the Malta game. So, yeah, your Jack Grealishes, Kyle Walkers, Phil Foden, John Stones, maybe Declan Rice as well, obviously being involved in West Ham's Europa Conference final too. Now, he's selected 18 from the previous squad that played Italy and Ukraine. We have a squad of 3 goalkeepers, 9 defenders, 7 in midfield and 6 forwards. Let's run through it and then get into the nitty-gritty. Those 3 goalkeepers: Sam Johnston, Jordan Pickford, Aaron Ramsdale. Defenders: Trent Alexander-Arnold, Lewis Dunk, Mark Gui, Harry Maguire, Tyrone Mings, Luke Shaw, John Stones, Kieran Trippier, Kyle Walker, Kyle the oldest one in the squad at 33, Jude Bellingham, the youngest at 19, Eberechi Eze from Crystal Palace is the only uncapped player in, Conor Gallagher, Jordan Henderson, James Maddison, Calvin Phillips, Declan Rice, forwards: Phil Foden, Jack Grealish, Harry Kane, Marcus Rashford, Bukayo Saka and Callum Wilson. It is a squad with an average age of 26.8, 756 caps across it and 108 goals. Of course, 55 of those belonging to our captain and all-time England record goal scorer, Harry Kane. And who'd bet against him adding to that, either against Malta or North Macedonia? It's a squad that consists of 5 from Manchester City, 3 from Crystal Palace and Manchester United, 2 from Arsenal, Liverpool and Newcastle, and 1 from Everton, Brighton, Aston Villa, Chelsea, Leicester, West Ham, Tottenham. And at the time it was selected, Jude Bellingham, of course, was at Borussia Dortmund. Well, he's now a Galactico, isn't he? He's now a Real Madrid player. And with respect to both Malta and North Macedonia, I think this is a squad where Gareth can afford to experiment a little, bring in a new face or recall those that haven't been around the camp for a little while. In goal, of course, it's highly likely that we'll see Jordan Pickford for both games, although he may see Aaron Ramsdale some action, maybe a second half sub if things are going to plan. Sam Johnston returns to the fold for the first time since March last year, although he withdrew from that squad, you may remember. No Nick Pope this time. He's injured. In defence, good to see Lewis Dunk get another opportunity, having not been selected since 2018. His 1 cap coming against the States. Remember the Wayne Rooney Foundation game? But he's been part of a Brighton team that has, of course, won European football for next season. So fully deserves his call-up. Tyrone Mings is back for the first time since March last year. You may remember his last touch of that game was to score the 3rd goal in the victory against Ivory Coast. And of course, with Aston Villa gaining European football next year, like Lewis Dunk, fully deserves his selection. In midfield, as we've already mentioned, Jude Bellingham at 19, highly likely to add to his 24 caps. The first major move of the summer, isn't it? After winning the Bundesliga Player of the Season, massive achievement considering his age. And just agonisingly missing out on the title, didn't he? He's now made his move to Real Madrid for 88.5 million, which apparently could increase to 115 with all the various add-ons. Cracking move for him. Real chance to make that step up for one of the world's biggest clubs. Him and Vinicius Jr., the Galacticos. They're going to be back, aren't they? albeit in maybe a younger fashion than before. And I guess just whilst we're on the subject of Real Madrid, speculation at the moment, Harry Kane is catching their eye following the departure of Karim Benzema. He's gone to some Saudi club, I believe, hasn't he? As I mentioned, the only new uncapped player is Crystal Palace's Eberechi Eze. He's had a great season. 10 goals for him for Palace. He was actually called up to the squad in May 2021 as part of Gareth's initial 33 for the Euros, but he was injured on the first day. So he's clearly been part of the manager's thoughts. Maybe it's just a surprise that it's taken this long. I do have to say, though, Conor Gallagher, Chelsea's only representative, I struggle with. Against Italy and Ukraine, he only came on for the last 5 minutes of both games. And we know Chelsea, though, they had a mare of a season, didn't they? But then again, serve Leicester, James Maddison is in. If I'm talking in this way, I guess I could also say the same of Jordan Pickford at Everton too. Calvin Phillips is in, fresh from making his first league start for Manchester City recently. Up front, Phil Foden is back after he withdrew from the last squad when he had his appendix removed. Callum Wilson is back in. It's not featured since that game against Wales in Qatar. 1 goal to his name, scored on his debut against USA in that game I mentioned earlier. He's had a good season with Newcastle. And with Ivan Toney now unavailable until January next year because of his ban, this is an ideal opportunity for Callum to stake a claim going forward. You'd like to think he'll make good use of this opportunity. So other than Ivan Toney, who else has missed out? Well, Raheem Sterling has supposedly taken himself out of the frame for not feeling himself in his performances. I salute that, actually. Someone who's taken the responsibility for himself. I think everyone can see that he's not the player he was when he was at City, and I've never really felt he's been at his best for Chelsea. Perhaps this break at the end of the season will do him good. Really hope so. There's no Ben White, no Connor Cody, Fikayo Tomori, Ollie Watkins, James Ward-Prowse. I mentioned Nick Pope is out injured. So is Tottenham's Eric Dyer and Chelsea's Reece James, Ben Chilwell and Mason Mount too. And at the time of recording this, no one has pulled out of the squad. Although I have heard a couple of whispers about Jude Bellingham and Bukayo Saka, but nothing concrete, certainly nothing official. Friday the 16th of June, England play their third Euro 2024 qualifier. It is away to Malta, a country we have a decent record against. This will be our 6th meeting, and all previous 5 have been won by England. In fact, back in 2016, Malta were the opposition when Gareth Southgate began his England managerial career. A 2-0 victory at Wembley, you may remember. Anyway, it's always good to learn a little more about our opponents. So I'm delighted to welcome to the Three Lions podcast, Antoine Busuttil from the website maltafootball.com. Did I get it right, your name there, Antoine?
Yes, perfect. It's a pleasure for me to be with you on this podcast.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you very much for joining us. As I say, Malta are the third opponents for England in this European campaign for Germany 2024. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to go to the game, which is disappointing. So I was hoping that maybe you could tell us a little bit more about Malta, the country, the team, maybe some sights to see around the country, and what I'm sure many England fans will be looking for some food and drink that you may recommend.
Yes, sure. Actually, Malta is quite popular with English tourists and British tourists in general. You may recall Malta was a colony of the British Empire. And so many Englishmen still have quite strong links with Malta. In fact, one could say that the number of tourists of Brit English, mainly English tourists who visit Malta, is one of the highest compared to tourists from other countries.
Oh, right.
And yes, and even Maltese. England is one of the favorite places to visit, especially London.
Yes.
The fact that in Malta everyone speaks English. In fact, English is also the second official language, along with Maltese, makes it easy for the English visiting here. So it's easy for someone who would like to come here for the game. Actually, the tickets for the game have been sold out. In fact, as far as I know, there were 4,000 tickets assigned to English fans.
Yes.
They were sold out almost immediately. And even the tickets were sold to the locals. They were sold in a matter of a few hours.
So it's going to be a full house.
Yes, yes. Having the English national team playing here is something which Maltese fans look forward to. Having the pleasure to watch a team like England, even Italy, which visited Malta in last March. It's always a pleasure to have such strong teams playing against the national team.
Yeah, I can imagine there's going to be a lot of, let's say, 4,000 English fans coming across, and I'm sure many will also be trying to. I've looked at getting tickets in the home end into the Maltese end. I know that's happened previously. Well, let's start with the stadium. Is it the Talcali Stadium? Yes,
it's the area is called Ta'ali. Actually, it's called the National Stadium. It's the largest stadium on the island. Has a capacity of around 17,000 spectators. It was built in the early 80s, and so far it's still the largest stadium. It also hosts most of the Premier League matches. Unlike other countries, football in Malta, top-level football, is not played on a home and away basis. The fact that there aren't many stadiums who are up to standard who can host top-level matches. The league is mainly played in 3 or 4 stadiums. The National Stadium, which hosts the biggest games, and then there are another 3 stadiums, the Hibernia Stadium, the Centenary Stadium, and sometimes another stadium, the Victor Telesco Stadium, is used as well.
Now, the stadium, it's up in the northern part of the country. How easy is it to get to for fans if they are, I don't know, maybe staying elsewhere on the island? Is there good public transport?
Well, there is public transport who caters also for to travel to the National Stadium. But another option is the cabs, taxis. Apart from the white taxis, there are Uber, Bolt, e-cabs. Their prices do not cost that much, so it's also a possibility. As I told you, the public transport buses. There would be buses. But sometimes it's even easier to use taxis as well.
Oh, I see. And there'll be plenty of those around after the game, will there?
Yes, definitely.
Oh, good stuff. Now, the team, we're talking before the squad has been announced for Malta, I believe. Now, what I have seen from previous games, as you say, Malta have already played Italy, is quite remarkably the vast majority of the Maltese squad do play in that Maltese league that you mentioned, for the likes of is it Hibernians or Valletta or Hammer and Spartans. They're very localised, aren't they?
Yes, it's true. Unfortunately, there are not a large number of Maltese players playing abroad. The reasons for that, maybe several. Maybe being Mediterranean, uh, sometimes they prefer the comfort zone of staying on the island and playing for one of the top clubs here.
Rather than rainy England.
Yes. Actually, in the squad, there is one player who plays in England. It's Jody Jones, who plays for Notts County.
That's
the
right.
Product of Oxford, but this year he was on loan with Notts County, had a good spell with Notts County. Actually, he qualified to play for Malta since he has, if not mistaken, his grandfather is Maltese and has been playing for Malta for the past couple of years. There's also James Brown, who plays for St. Johnstone in Scotland as well.
Okay, I've also read that there's a player called Luke Gambin, who Sutton United fans may recognise. Does he still play?
Unfortunately, for the past 3 years, he was hardly called up for the team.
Oh, Wikipedia needs to update themselves.
Yes. Actually, when he was first called for the national team, he was doing quite well. But then, 2 years ago, he decided to move to Malta to play for Hamrun Spartans. Hamrun Spartans are currently the champions.
Okay.
But during that season, he disappointed. Last summer, he moved back to the UK, but still his level was not the same as we had seen before 3-4 years ago. He performed much better then. And so the current national coach, who's an Italian, Michele Marcolini, opted to leave him out. Unfortunately for Luke Gambin, had missed the game at Wembley as he was sent off in the previous game. And he was really looking forward to play now. But unfortunately for him, his performances were not deemed to be up to the required standard, and unfortunately he has not made it to the 33-man squad. Right now there's a 33-man squad who had been training together for the past couple of weeks, especially the local based ones, because the others based abroad, mainly they are still engaged with their clubs in the final stages of their championships. Right. But the local-based ones have been training together for the past couple of weeks in order to prepare in the best way possible for the England game and the one against Ukraine 3 days later, which will be played in Trnava, Slovakia.
That's right, yes. So who is the star man for Malta? Who should England look out for?
I would mention two players mainly. It's the first one is Teddy Teuma. He plays for a Belgian club, Union Saint-Gilloise. They were quarter-finalists in the Europa League and are currently fighting for the championship in Belgium, in the top division. And the other player is Matthew Gulaimir, another midfielder. He is currently on the books of Hamrun Spartans. Hamrun Spartans, who were crowned champions for the second time in 3 years. Right now, they are the strongest side on the island. Both have been performing at a very high level, and undoubtedly they are the best two players right now in the team.
I see. Okay, it'll be exciting to see what they're like on the night. So, take us around Malta a little bit. What would you recommend for supporters coming to the country what is there to see?
Well, actually, there's a mixture of everything. Culture, if we start from museums, the historic temples who age even were built even earlier than Stonehenge, for example.
Wow.
Yes, there is a lot of culture to see. For those who are not that interested in culture, maybe prefer food. The food is mainly Mediterranean. It's quite similar to the Italian cuisine. Actually, you'd find restaurants for all sorts of cuisine on the island. So for those who love eating, they are definitely spoiled for choice here. For those who prefer nightlife, the main entertainment spots are St. Julian's, Sliema, to a certain extent, St. Paul's Bay and Aura. Mainly, it's English people who come to Malta prefer the St. Paul's Bay area.
Okay, right.
Actually, most people who move to Malta from England usually stay in that area. But the biggest concentration of clubs and pubs is definitely in St. Julian's. So they have two good options. The good thing is that for someone visiting Malta, you can reach anywhere from one side to the other of the island in less than an hour.
Okay.
Most places you'll be there in half an hour. Apart from Malta, there's also the island of Gozo. So for those who are planning to come to Malta and spend 3-4 days, definitely one day it's worth visiting the island of Gozo. Although it's obviously very close, it's just a 25-minute ferry away from Malta. It has different characteristics. It's more laid back. The atmosphere there, it's more relaxing. More you can see more nature, because Malta, being a small island, being quite densely populated, it's a bit more built up than Gozo, and there are lots of things to see in Gozo as well.
Yeah, it sounds like my type of place. But what is the? Do you have a brewery on Malta? What's the local beer or the drink of choice for Maltese people?
The number one beer is definitely called Cisk, Cisk. It's a brewery who's been around for almost 100 years now. It's their lager especially has won several awards abroad. They have also ales, pilsner, various types of beers, but the Cisk lager, the original, it's definitely the number one.
So I hope the bars will be stocking up for the England supporters that are coming.
Yes, definitely.
Well, tell us a little bit about the website maltafootball.com of yours.
Well, I have been following football since I was a kid. I was supporting my local club. I hail from Rabat, and the club is called Rabat Ajax, like the Ajax of Amsterdam.
Okay.
Actually, when I was young, the team had just been promoted to the Premier League for the first time. And in a few years, they managed to win the championship.
Oh, wow.
Then, as I grew older, I was becoming more interested in statistics and started collecting statistics. And in 1996, I decided to set up a website. Actually, in Malta, internet was introduced in 1995. So 1 year later, I just read a few tutorials how to set up a website, and started putting statistics about Maltese football.
Well done.
So it has been running since then, for 26 years now, actually 27 years. It covers the local football from the Premier League up to all youth leagues, women's football, which is becoming more popular. Actually, the Maltese women's national team has been performing quite well in recent years, even exporting a number of players abroad. Well, back to the website. It's practically a one-man job. I have been running it since 1996, obviously with the assistance of photographers mainly, in order to enrich the website. It covers the local league with reports from the Premier League and all results, scorers and statistics from the other divisions.
Well, you do a grand job. Well done. Just going back to the big game between Malta and England, what do you expect? How will that game pan out?
Well, it's definitely not an easy game. This style of play Malta plays, usually Malta find it a bit difficult when facing British teams. In fact, for example, last November, there was a friendly with Ireland, just a few days after a friendly against Greece. Greece play the Mediterranean style of football, even like Italy do and other Mediterranean countries. And in fact, for example, against Greece, Malta did very well. It was a 2-2 draw, a great performance. 3 days later, the friendly match against Ireland, Malta found it a bit more difficult. Actually, it ended in the 0-1 defeat. But still, the fact that playing against a team like England definitely enables the players to get the best out of them, because knowing that playing against such a strong team, one would definitely try not his 100%, but 200%. For example, I remember the game in Wembley. Many thought that Malta would suffer heavy defeat in Wembley. Actually, on the day, I remember I was present for that game in 2016. In particular, there was the goalkeeper, Andrew Hawke, who played a brilliant game, most probably one of the best of his career. And in fact, although England tried hard on the day, Malta managed to limit the damages. It was only, it's still a loss, but it was only a 0-2 defeat. And a 0-2 defeat against England in Wembley is definitely acceptable. Now, hopefully, Malta will do well. Malta, since last December, has a new coach, Michele Marcolini, because the previous coach, Davis Manja, had to leave the post, and he was replaced by another Italian. Compared to the previous coach, maybe he does not have the similar experience, because Davis Manja was, for example, coach of the Italy under-21 national team, while Marcolini has been coaching mainly in the Italian Serie B and Serie C. But so far, the performance in the first games they played was quite encouraging, both against North Macedonia, where Malta lost 2-1 in Skopje, and even against Italy, the 2-0 defeat. As part of the coaching staff, there is Davide Mazzotta, who was also part of Antonio Conte's staff while he was at Chelsea. Davide Mazzotta, he was assistant coach with Davis Manja, with the national team for 3 years, and now he's assistant coach as well with Marcolini. He's a great tactician, although isn't the actual coach. He has he leaves his mark, because his the tactics, the way he prepares the tactics, it's something really great.
Okay. Well, it's going to be an interesting game then. Perhaps, I mean, some England fans may think it will be one-sided, but as you said, the performance against North Macedonia and only the small loss against Italy proves that Malta you're not a walkover, are you, anymore?
No, in recent years, the mentality changed because unfortunately before, if we speak about 8-10 years ago, and even if we go back to 20-30 years ago, unfortunately there was this inferiority complex that when Malta was playing against a strong team, whether it was England, Germany, Italy, whatever, the plan was too defensive, with almost all players crowding the area and without trying to create something. This mentality has been changing in recent years, especially with the previous coach, Davis Manja, and even with the new coach, Marcolini. The mentality is changing that even if, obviously, we know that England, player by player, they are better than Malta, but at least the Maltese players are trying to play their game, trying to create something. At least they're trying to score. Unfortunately, there were periods of times where Malta would sometimes even fail to score a single goal in the qualifiers. Now that thing is changing, definitely.
Well, we shall see. Perhaps they will score. Perhaps they'll score against England. We shall see. Antoine, thank you very much for joining us. Maybe come November when Malta come to Wembley once again. I assume it'll be Wembley. I'm not sure if it's been announced yet, but
yes,
maybe
it should be at Wembley. Yes.
Yeah. Maybe we can speak again.
Yes, sure. I'll be definitely traveling for the game because it's something I have been looking forward to travel again for a game against England. So it's would definitely be no problem to speak again ahead of the game.
Let's do that. But just ahead of this game, I wish you all the very best, and I hope the England fans that come over, you enjoy their company.
Yes, for sure.
Monday, the 19th of June, England returned to Old Trafford for the first time since 2007. This time, North Macedonia are the opponents. Now, I last went to Manchester. It must have been pre-pandemic. I'll know where I am once I'm there, but it's always good to get a guide as to the city where England are playing. And who better to guide us around Manchester than John Costadine, fully qualified tour guide and operator of Manchester Taxi Tours at manchestertaxitours.co.uk. Hello, John.
Hello, Russell. How are you?
I'm all good, thank you. Yourself?
Very well, thank you. Are you looking forward to coming back to Manchester?
Yeah, of course I am. Of course, I always love coming up to Manchester.
I didn't realise until you said then, when the last time that England played at Old Trafford was in 2007. I didn't realise it was so long ago.
Yeah, Spain, and we lost.
Well, yeah.
They were a good side then.
I couldn't remember the score, but we lost, didn't we? But the whole atmosphere around Manchester, or when England play around the country, is absolutely fantastic. I remember it well because I was working on the taxis at the time, and it just, people come from all over the country and all over the world to watch England. Obviously, the away fans come as well, and it's just fantastic. The atmosphere is absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, it's always good when England get to go visit around the country. Obviously, when Wembley was being rebuilt.
That's right. Yeah.
So it's going to be good to come back. And so what I usually do is speak to a few people who are local to the city or the town where England are playing, and you're an ideal person to speak to. Just tell us a little bit about Taxi Tours, Manchester Taxi Tours.
What I did, Russell, was I've worked on the taxis for many years, and I saw a sort of the way things were going. If you remember, that 2007, 2008 was just around the start of the financial crash. And I'm thinking, what am I going to do? And I'm from Manchester. And what I used to do is when people get in my taxi, I engage with them. So you're generally picking people at the airport or the stations or on the taxi ranks anywhere. And what I did was start engaging with people. And I used to make stuff up, Russell. I used to make up stories about this is where the Queen stays when she comes to Manchester. This is Hogwarts Palace, that type of thing. And I saw an advertisement for a tour guiding course. It was run by a company, the tourism arm of Manchester City Council, which is called Marketing Manchester and Visit Manchester, like the tourism arm that brings people into the city. And I saw this tour guiding course advertised, and I thought, that's for me. And I went on this tour guiding course, not having any thought about how it would pan out. I just thought, I'm going to go on this course just to improve my knowledge of the city, and also so I could add a little bit of value to people's taxi journeys. So rather than making stuff up, I could tell the truth. So then I went on the course, and I was a bit intimidated at first because it was the first time I'd had any sort of formal education since I left school. And anyway, I got through the course and I passed the course, still had no idea where I was going to go with it. And I realised that I didn't know enough about the business side of the business. And I went back to university, and the whole experience was just fantastic. That led then in about 2011, 2012 to sort of formally setting up Manchester Taxi Stores, still having no idea where I was going to go with it. And anyway, I got a website and Twitter and Facebook and all the sort of modern business essentials that you need that I learned about when I went back to university. So I set it up. And surprisingly enough, people started contacting me via my website going, oh, can we have a taxi tour on such and such a date? And it was a fairly steep learning curve. But I was taking people around the city. So Manchester's a fascinating city. Many different areas and aspects, and known as the world's first industrial city. And it was the cotton industry that put Manchester on the map. And post-industrialisation, Manchester has changed dramatically. So what I could do there is take people from Roman times, that Manchester was first settled by the Romans in AD 79, right through to the latest developments, and also with a look into the future, because this was before Media City had been sort of properly finished, and sort of a lot of the new city centre apartments and restaurants and all these different aspects of the city. Because you'll find yourself, Russell, won't you? When you come to Manchester, you go, where's that come from? That wasn't there before. Or where's those skyscraper buildings come? This is a very fast growing city at the moment. And that then it makes it attractive for people to visit. Yeah. And also the university area of Manchester is fascinating. So all these different aspects of the city all fit together to make it really attractive. And you'd never really meet anyone that's got a bad word to say about Manchester. They've either been for the weekend for football, music, just general partying, or they've been to university in Manchester and they like it because of the education that they got from there. Or they just had generally a good time with Manchester people because, as you know yourself, Russell, Manchester people are the friendliest people you'll ever meet anywhere.
I know a few. So the vast majority of people, I reckon, will either be driving up or they'll get the train and they'll come into Piccadilly, as I've done in the past. Yeah. Fairly central from what I remember. So, and the chances are a lot of them are going to be thinking, right, I want a beer, I want something to eat before the game. Where do you recommend?
Well, Manchester's a very compact city. And also what they say is that you can eat a different style of cuisine every day for 6 weeks. So you've got your choice. There's a huge Chinatown in the city centre. In the Arndale Centre, which is the main shopping centre, there's an international food court. There's pubs all around the city that will do fish and chips. There's little chippies around as well where you can get cheap food, good quality, cheap food. If you've got the kids with you, bringing them to the match, you don't want to go in a pub. So there's little chip chops around. So there's everything that you could possibly want in a city. And some of the great places, one of the great football pubs is a pub called the Old Nag's Head. And this is on a place called Jackson's Row, which is right in the heart of the city, just off Deansgate. It sits between Deansgate and Albert Square. And it's a traditional Manchester pub that has an entrance on 2 streets.
Right.
And the stories go that if you were in there drinking and your wife came in, you could run out the other door and carry on drinking in the next pub. But the way modern times are now, Russell, is more likely to be your wife that's in there drinking and you going looking for her. So,
ain't that the truth?
So there's all these places. So there's the oldie worldy sort of traditional Manchester pubs, right up until the most exclusive bars like the Ivy, the Alchemist, 20 Stories that are in the Spinningfields area of the city. And they're all fairly close together because Manchester's a very compact city. So there's also the Shambles Square, which is where a lot of the away fans are directed to. So these are medieval buildings that have been turned into pubs. The whole city is geared up for enjoyment.
Nice one. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, isn't Boddington's a Manchester beer?
Boddington's is a Manchester beer, but unfortunately, Russell, and as soon as anyone ever mentions Boddington's, I think back to the first time I ever had a pint, ever. You always remember it, don't you? And it was a pint of Boddington's, and I still remember the taste, and I still salivate. It's not the same as it was. It's still nice, but it's not like that original Boddington's. There's also Holtz's beer, which is brewed in Manchester, which is a nice beer as well, but you have to be careful because it's quite a strong beer. So for someone who's coming up from down south, be careful, it might be a bit strong for you.
I'm trying to think. There was one time I went up there and someone pointed out a pub to me, and they said it's either the smallest pub or the second smallest pub.
I know which one you mean. It's called the Circus Tavern. And it's on Portland Street, which is just around the corner from Piccadilly Railway Station, the smallest bar in the world. Yeah. And it has a bar that's about the size of a tea tray. And it gets packed, and you get a lot of the football fans will go in there. That's also next to a pub called the Grey Horse, which is half Manchester United and half Manchester City. So there's a line around the wall inside the pub. And on one side, they've got City pictures. On the other side, they've got United pictures. And that's the unity in Manchester, isn't it? We divide through the football, but we're all brought together through the football as well.
Of course, yeah. Well, a lot of people, if they're not coming up by train, they're going to be driving up.
And Old Trafford is on the west of the city. And it's near a place called Salford Quays and Media City. And there's lots of places to park around there. If you park in Salford Quays and Media City, there's multi-storey car parks, and it's only a short walk to the ground. And also, it's easy to get away from afterwards. Okay. So this then gives you the different options to park. So it's very accessible because Manchester United are used to huge crowds coming into the game, aren't they? 76,500 fans come to watch pretty much every game of Manchester United. So there's no shortage of places to park. You can park around the stadium. I think you can even book parking spaces within the stadium complex as well. So depending on if you've got mobility issues, you might need to park nearer to the ground. So I think if you go on Old Trafford, Manchester United's website, you'll probably be able to book parking as well. But within walking distance, there's so many places to park. It's really easy.
Gotcha. And
it's when you come out of the ground that's the difficult bit, because when you go to the game, everybody goes at different times, don't they? You go and park up, and maybe you go for a pint near the ground, or maybe you just go and look around the stadium or look at the different areas around Old Trafford. It's when everybody comes out at the same time, isn't it? Heading for the main arterial routes out of Old Trafford. That's a difficult spot. So a lot of people will park up in Media City and Salford Quays because it's easier to get out onto the motorway.
Right, I see. But
also, let me give you a little bit of inside information here, Russell. Just for you, this. Don't tell anyone.
Rightio.
But you can actually go to Manchester United, to Old Trafford Stadium, by boat.
Can you?
Yes, you can. And if you go online and have a look for Manchester City Centre cruises, you can get on a canal boat in Castlefield, which is where the Roman part of Manchester is, and that takes you up the Bridgewater Canal and docks outside Hotel Football.
Which is Gary Neville's.
Which is Gary Neville's. And 20 minutes after the final whistle, it brings you back into the city. And there's no traffic on the canal.
There you go.
And also, there's a bar on the boat, so you don't even have to stop drinking.
I'm wondering how busy this is going to be now. Boat trips.
Well, it's a great way. Book on it if you can. It's a great way to go and see the game. It's fabulous. Yeah. No traffic.
Sounds like it's going to Fulham down here in the south. You go along the Thames.
Fulham and Manchester United are the only two football grounds in the UK that you can actually go to by boat. I'll stand corrected if anybody knows, but I think, as far as I know, it's the only two grounds you can go to by boat.
Well, I don't know the answer to that, but immediately Nottingham comes to mind. But I don't know if you can get to the grounds along the Trent there.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I'll look forward to hearing from someone who can tell me something different.
Well, if you know,
every day's a school day, Russell, isn't it? You're always
certainly is. If someone catches your cab on the day of the game, they'll be sure to let you know. But if someone wants to get the tram, I know you've got the tram up there. What's the deal with the tram?
Well, the tram is a really convenient way to travel, and from the Piccadilly station complex there, you can take a tram directly out to Old Trafford. There's different trams you can get on. One stops near the cricket ground, which, if you remember, is just across the road from Old Trafford football stadium. And also it goes through Trafford Park now, which is a new line that's been developed since you were last here. So the ground is really easy to access by tram from Piccadilly, the main transport hub where the trains come in, the trains coming up from down south. So it's really easy, it's really accessible. And also it's not that far out of the city to the west. So what you do find is a lot of the football fans will find the way down to the west side of the city centre, and all the pubs and all the bars and all the restaurants will get packed. And then before the game, the taxis then start to kick in and people just flag the taxis down and head out to Old Trafford. So the trams, the trains, the buses, it's really easy to get to. You can also get the train out there as well. So it's really easy to get to.
Nice one. Well, taxis you mentioned there. Go on. Any famous names in the back of your cab? What stories have you got?
I once picked up a very famous Liverpool footballer up, and I didn't realise who he was. And I asked for money up front, and he went, "I'm Steven Gerrard." And I went, "Oh no, what have I done?" But anyway, that's life, isn't it? So you live and learn.
Amazing, John. Just let us know the website again and your Twitter handle.
My website is www.manchestertaxitours.co.uk. My name's John Considine. You find me all over the internet. I take my business very seriously. I do football tours of Manchester, general history tours. If you go on my website and have a look, you'll see all the different types of things I do. Please have a look, and if you feel like having a tour while you're here, we can go and see some of the players' graves. We can see where Manchester United used to play before they played at Old Trafford. And also, by then, we can go and see what will maybe the Champions Stadium again, because which is the blue side of Manchester.
You are blue yourself, aren't you?
I say nothing, Russell. Say nothing.
Fair enough, John. When I'm up there, if I see you, I'll flag you down. I'll say hello to you.
Give me a call, Russell. It'll be lovely to bump into you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for your time.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Now, let's talk North Macedonia, whom we meet on Monday the 19th. A nation, quite frankly, not to be taken lightly in recent years. They've made the Euro 2020 finals. They also famously knocked out Italy in their World Cup playoffs, although they didn't make it to Qatar, though, did they? They lost to Portugal. Now, we last met in 2006, ironically, also at Old Trafford. Incidentally, the other game in England with North Macedonia was played at Southampton. So they've never had the pleasure of playing at Wembley, and it won't be this year. That game in 2006 was an ill-fated European Championships qualifier that ended 0-0. Featured the likes of Gary Neville, Ashley Cole, Steven Gerrard, John Terry, Frank Lampard, Wayne Rooney. Basically the golden generation, wasn't it? And the game in Southampton, well, that ended 2-2. In fact, our overall record is as follows. Played 4, won 2, drawn 2, lost none, scored 5, conceded 3. Now, I'm pleased to say I've been joined by Alex from the Twitter account at Macedonian Football, an account that looks at all things Macedonian football. Alex, hello.
Hello. Thank you for having me on. I'm good, thank you. Yourself?
Yeah, I'm all good, thanks. Thanks for joining us. Yeah, Macedonian football, I've got to be honest, it's not something that my knowledge is too high on. What's your connection to Macedonia? Because I know you're based here in England.
Yeah, my father is from Macedonia, from Tetovo, and he moved over probably 30 years ago, sort of thing. And as I got older, I kind of found my my interest in Macedonia kind of increase.
Right.
And I actually had the reason I started this account, because I had a friend who was Moroccan, and we both said we wanted to do work in sort of football. We thought perfect opportunity to kind of find a gap in the market.
Yeah.
And we started it, and here I am 6 years later. And
been scrolling through it recently, just trying to sort of increase my knowledge on it. So there's some useful pictures, videos, information all on there. I mean, as a country, again, I kind of feel a bit naive not knowing a great deal about it, but it used to be part of the old Yugoslavia, didn't it? And was part of the long drawn out breakup.
Yeah, it was. It was the most southerly country in the Yugoslavia. Yeah,
and it borders Greece. And am I right in saying that was where it was initially known as Macedonia, and then a little while later, sort of Greece disputed the name and the terminology
involved in that.
Yeah, the terminology North came into it.
Yeah. So but whatever you say, you're not going to win, really. Greeks want it to be North Macedonia, Macedonians want it to be Macedonia. So
okay, so would I get away with saying either?
To be politically correct, you're probably best saying North Macedonia, as much as I'd rather say Macedonia is best, just to stay on the right side.
Gotcha. So come on, let's get on to the football. The Macedonian league. You're obviously aware of the levels of the English pyramid. What's sort of the Macedonian league equivalent would it be?
I'd probably say it's non-league sort of standard, down probably like step 5 of English football, I'd say, around that sort of level.
Okay.
I don't think I could see. I think maybe that's a bit harsh, but I would say the sort of facilities and the way it's run is probably below anything in England. Even the Sunday League in England's probably ran better than the Macedonian League. Of course, there's good teams at the top of the table who would probably, I would say, probably League 2 level, but I couldn't see them any higher than that.
Yeah. I mean, this is not to dispute the quality of some of the players, because some of the players in the national team are playing for top level clubs around the world, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's Elmas at Napoli, who came from probably the biggest producer of national team players at Robotnički, and he was, I think, 18, and he had a breakout season and got his move to Fenerbahce because he has Turkish heritage. So that kind of move was always sort of like pre-planned for him. And then a couple of seasons in Fenerbahce, and he quickly went to Napoli. And there's Alioski, who played in the Premier League for Leeds, Bardi, who plays in the Turkish league. So there are a fair few players who've had good careers and will have good careers as well.
Am I right in saying that maybe the only player sort of closest to home is the guy that plays for Burnley? Is it Darko Cherlinov?
Yeah. He's not in the squad, unfortunately. He's had a pretty terrible season with injuries and kind of the small benches on the Championship. Although there's 5 subs, there's only a 7-8 man bench, and obviously Burnley have a ridiculously good squad for the Championship. And even when he's been fit, he hasn't really been able to even get on the bench. So he's withdrawn from the squad with an injury, and I think he's in hospital at the moment in Belgrade with some sort of reaction to having a tooth removed or something.
Oh dear.
So,
is he likely to stay at Burnley, do you think, and get some Premier League action?
No, I don't think so. I think he was signed for around £4 million, so it was quite a decent price tag, but he got injured quite quickly, returned just before the World Cup break. Obviously, the World Cup break happened, and then kind of picked up a few more injuries. And at the end of the season, he was pictured with, he came from Schalke, and he was pictured with his Schalke teammates at a concert. And there's always kind of been the speculation that Schalke fans wanted to sign him in the summer because he was only on loan there, but they couldn't afford it. And now he kind of been saying things like, I love Schalke, it's my favourite club. I love the connection with the fans and the players. So he's kind of been hinting at a return to Schalke if they can agree some sort of deal with Burnley. I don't think he'll end up staying.
I see. I mean, is there anyone else in the squad that we should be aware of that maybe be unfamiliar to English fans?
I'd say the first player that pops to my mind is Alexander Trajkovski. Obviously, he scored the goal in Palermo, and he's probably he's a active highest goal scorer at the moment, and he seems to sort of be our man for the big occasions, I would say. He scored against Italy in 2016 as well, and kind of can be a little bit invisible in a game, but he'll kind of pop up with a moment or a bit of skill or something like that, and can kind of probably be one of our biggest match winners.
Okay. The group that we're all in so far, you've just played the one game, sitting in third place, but it was beating Malta on the same evening that we beat Italy. The NN had a 1-0 friendly victory over the Faroe Islands. What is the sort of thoughts with the Macedonian fans or the people that you know about this group? Can you see them getting through? What are the hopes of the country?
I think when the draw was made, it was kind of set in stone that we weren't gonna, unless a miracle, we weren't gonna make the top 2. The players are very well liked. Obviously, getting to the Euros and kind of they've been a good team the last couple of years. They've been able to support them. Obviously, Pandev retired, and we had a change of manager after the Euros, and Milevski, who came from our under-21s, was highly thought of, but he hasn't been able to quite get his mark on this team. He's kind of mentioned about playing possession style football, but there's a lot of possession and not much really happening in the final third.
Right.
And a lot of people have been calling for him to be sacked or look at replacements. There should be pressure on him, but he's well supported by the federation, and obviously the federation don't really care what the fans have to say. But it seems to be he isn't the best supported manager. The team is still well supported, but the manager kind of makes it quite difficult to support this team. He's very hypocritical. He says things like, I only want to call players up who've been playing, in their best form for club. But then you'll see there's about 5 or 6 names on the list who don't even play for their clubs, and players who have been left out who are playing for their club.
I think some England fans might say the same with Gareth Southgate.
Yeah, in his defence, the sort of players who haven't been playing are similar to the Maguire situation, let's say, because they do play well for the national team.
Right.
But he makes a big point of being in their best form, and he kind of picks and chooses when he uses that saying to suit him, sort of thing.
I see. The game against Italy, you mentioned it there in Palermo where you beat them. It was 1-0 and was it last minute or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, last minute, yeah.
How must that have been? Were you there? Did you go? Or
I was at the game, yeah.
How was that?
The whole day was kind of, I remember going around Italy, I had my Pandev top on, and obviously he played in Italy his whole career, and people kind of were going, "Oh, Pandev," being friendly, nice, of course, and but they were quite quick to write us off. They're saying 4-0 Italy, didn't really give us much chance. And I remember saying to a couple of Italians, because their English isn't the best down there, a couple of them who could speak English, I predicted 1-0 Tchaikovsky.
Oh, right.
Because the story going into the game was Tchaikovsky used to play for Palermo for a couple of years.
Right.
And they also had their financial problems and went down to the third tier. So we had two Macedonians, Nestorovsky and Tchaikovsky. Nestorovsky wasn't in the squad. He had a ACL injury and wasn't playing for his club. And Tchaikovsky was effectively, I wouldn't say a legend, but they like him out there. And my prediction was 1-0. I remember saying it to a security guard outside a shopping centre.
Yeah.
And so the game, I remember it, but I don't. It's sort of a blur. And I remember a lot of heart in mouth moments because we tried to play out the back, tried to play possession. I don't think the whole game we didn't create a clear goal scoring opportunity. And then 92nd minute or something, one long ball, Miolski won the header, and Tchaikovsky just hit it. It happened so quickly, but also when that shot was hit, it felt so slow as well at the same time.
Right.
And I remember just looking around and I didn't know how to react. There's people crying, there's people jumping on their seats, flares going off, and yeah, it was an incredible moment, and I'm speechless. I still don't know what to say about it.
It's a proper football moment, that one.
Yeah.
Excellent. I mean, do you go to, being in England here, do you manage to get to go to some of the home games for Macedonia? Because obviously we've got the game coming up, I believe, in November. Is it Skopje? Is that how you pronounce it?
Skopje, yeah.
Skopje. Many England fans will be looking at how to get there. Do you go to the home games?
Normally it doesn't quite align when I go back. I normally go in the summer around August, July time. So I catch the domestic league, but I haven't been to too many games in Macedonia. But I am looking to go to the England one in Skopje.
Okay. Yeah, I think it'll be but I've booked some flights. I'm just obviously waiting for tickets to come about. So yeah, hopefully we can speak nearer the time on that one. You can maybe give us a guide to what Skopje is like and things to see and do there. But but maybe back to the game at Old Trafford. I know you've got a ticket for that one. Is there much of a Macedonian community here in England that'll be sort of filling out an away end?
I know there is a good 500, 600 who have got their tickets and they're ready to go. The Macedonian sort of mindset is never good about sport. It's always thinking the worst instead of the best. So a lot of people are thinking, what's the point of me going up to Old Trafford to watch us lose? But then on the other hand, a lot of people want to enjoy the experience. So I think there will be a decent turnout. I don't think it'll be sold out, but I think there'll be 500-600 Macedonian fans.
Yeah. Hopefully it'll be a good game, and as I say, it's been 2 draws between the two nations on English soil. Would you be prepared to put a scoreline on this one?
My heart says Macedonia can get something, but my head rules out completely. I think I'd be happy with 3-0 England if we could keep the score down, to be honest.
Right. Well, we shall see. Tell us once more the Twitter account where we can find you.
Yeah, it's at Macedonian Foot and then _.
And is that the only sort of social media that you're pushing the Macedonian football on? You on anything else? I
have an Instagram, and I think it's the same, just Football Macedonia.
Oh, okay.
I'm not as active on there, to be honest.
Yeah, nice. Join the club. There's only so much you can actually do, isn't there?
Yeah.
Alex, thank you very much for joining us and just giving us an insight into the Macedonian side of football things. It'd be great to speak further down the line when the away game comes around, if you're up for that.
Absolutely, yeah. I look forward to it already. Thank you for having me.
So that wraps up this episode. My many thanks go to Anton Busoletti from maltafootball.com. Thanks to John Costadine from Manchester Taxi Tours and Alex there from Macedonia Football. Without them, the podcast wouldn't be the same. So go check them out or give them a follow. Sadly, I'm not in a position to be going to Malta. So, of course, I'm jealous of those that are heading that way. Enjoy it. Have a safe trip. And I'm sure I'll be hearing all about it from many of you when I head to Manchester a couple of days later. I'll be back with an episode looking back on both of those games. I hope you can join me for it. So until then, look after yourselves. Take care. Cheers.